So there are two ways that we usually find out about somebody's lie or their affair or their secret that they've been keeping. And depending on which way we find out impacts our healing and our journey and our ability to move into trust and to move past all the pain and all of that stuff. So I want to talk through the two ways that we typically find out about somebody's lie. So I call that disclosure. So the disclosure process, how they disclose to you or you find out about this impacts your healing and your ability to heal and build trust and all of that. So I want to talk through the two ways that we typically find out about that and the two types of disclosures that there are. And then I want to give you some tips for moving through that process better and getting a more full disclosure or moving through the healing process even if the disclosure didn't go well and that kind of thing. So I'm going to give you some tips on what to do and kind of how to move through that a little better after that. So this is really important because a lot of people get stuck here, and even when a lot of time passes, we're still ruminating on the same thoughts and the same things, right? So this is a really big piece because it is where people get stuck and have a hard time moving through and really healing and really coming back together as a couple. So this is really crucial. And remember, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to my channel and turn on the notifications, the little bell that you see there, so you can get updates when new videos come out. A lot of these videos are kind of sequential, so you'll get a piece of a video and then I'll expand on it or a different piece on it the next time. So if you find something really speaks to you, then make sure you subscribe and click the notification so you keep getting the videos and the updates. Also, I made a few notes of things that I want to make sure and cover. So if you see me looking away from the camera for a second, I'm sorry, that's just me looking at my notes so I can make sure I don't forget anything. So the two types of disclosures that we see. The first one is sort of the disclosure where it wasn't their choice. So it's been called, I've heard it called a forced disclosure before, but it's basically that you caught them or you found something. So often this is seeing someone's search history on their computer or seeing a chat, maybe finding photos, maybe going through messages on their phone or their email, or maybe even catching them doing something, catching them in the act of something, or catching them in a lie and it unraveling from there. So that's the kind of disclosure where they didn't choose to tell you and they didn't come forward with, hey, this is what I did. You caught them, or it was forced for them to tell you. And that often just keeps adding pain. It keeps adding insult to injury, really, because they didn't come forward and say, I made this huge mistake, I've been hiding this is what's going on. You caught them. And one of the reasons that is so much more painful is that a lot of people believe that their partner wouldn't have disclosed anything if they didn't get caught. So if you wouldn't have got caught, you would still be doing this. You would still be going behind my back. You would still be doing all of these things. But now that you got caught and I'm mad and I'm drawing these lines, now you're saying you're going to get help. Now you're saying you're going to change. But you don't really want to because you didn't come forward. So that's a really painful piece to deal with. And it really is hard to work past a lot of the time. So that's one piece of the disclosure. Is there anything else on that I wanted to talk about? I feel like there was something else. Anyway, so that's one type of disclosure. The other type of disclosure is the self-disclosure, where someone comes forward and says, okay, I have something really painful to talk about and I'm really sorry and I made a mistake or a lot of mistakes, and they come clean. So that's the other type of disclosure, the self-disclosure. But even within that, there's different pieces of that, right? I remember Dr. Skinner talking about this, where he said, he used an example of one of his clients who went to a retreat for men or something and realized that he'd been keeping all these secrets from his wife and that he should confess when he got home. So he got home and he laid it out there and he was like, hey, this is what's been going on. And in his mind, he was like, oh, I just need to tell her and it will all be okay and we'll be able to work through it. But when he told her, she exploded, obviously, because it was so traumatizing, and kept asking him all these questions, and it just turned into this big thing, and he didn't have the energy or the answers that she wanted, and he wasn't prepared for that. And so he ended up saying, I need some space. I like can't talk about this anymore. I'm feeling overwhelmed. And she took that as he was never going to tell her, and he didn't really want to tell her, and it just went downhill from there, right? So his intentions were really good with wanting to disclose, but he wasn't prepared, and he wasn't ready to do the whole process, and he wasn't ready for what questions she was going to ask and all of that stuff. So even though he did disclose, there was still a lot of, even though he chose to disclose, there was still a lot of pain that came up just with the disclosure and the way he did it, and there was still a lot of work that needed to be done after that, and more disclosures to go. So that's the other thing that we see, is rarely is this a one-time thing. Obviously it's not a one-time thing at all, because you don't get it all out and work through it. You have to keep working through it. But just in the disclosure piece, it's usually not a one-time thing. And often this is what people comment as being so painful, is that there's this one disclosure that destroys their whole world, and then there's like 3 more, and each one there's something else that the person confesses or adds in, or just says that maybe takes it a level deeper, or there's another facet or something. So each disclosure in and of itself is so painful and maybe goes deeper. And that is often something that the person hearing it remembers. Like, people can remember the day, the exact day. Some people, have names for it, like that day changed everything, and it's really traumatizing. All of those days are really traumatizing. So that's kind of the overview, I guess, of the types of disclosures and what that looks like. So basically, either way, it's going to be hard and it's going to be difficult, because there's no way a disclosure is easy, ever. There's no way a disclosure goes well and is easy, but it can be a little bit easier. So in my practice, I've helped a lot of people go through all the things that they want to disclose, talk through it, talk through all the things that their partner's probably going to ask and that they need to be ready for and they need to share, prepare for how their partner's going to react and what they can do to help that and what they can be ready for. I've done that a lot, and then I've also been a part of the disclosure process. And it's painful and it's ugly, but if we do it right and we really do our best to do it right, it can prevent so much pain from just adding on to the pain that's already going to be there. So that is the ideal situation. But that's often not what happens. And if it's a forced disclosure, you don't even have that opportunity because they were caught. And so now you're trying to figure out how to work through all of that now. So my suggestions for that are, if you're still struggling and you still maybe feel like there's more there, or you keep replaying all of the events, to get professional help in this process, whether it's for you or for them, or ideally together, so you can go through the disclosure process in a way that actually leads to healing and not into more pain. Because if we keep talking about this in a way that continues to be more painful and add more pain, then that's not helping anything, right? There's a quote by Dr. Gottman that says, if a couple's negative events are not fully processed, then they remember and rehearse them repeatedly. They turn them over and over in each of the person's mind, and the trust begins to erode. So he basically says that we're going to have negative stuff come up and we can't avoid that. But if we don't work through it, then it's going to turn into this replaying, right? That's a trauma symptom. Reliving and replaying the events. They have to be processed through so we don't do that. So that's the thing. You probably are going to need help to get there, for both of you to be able to walk through that process and disclose everything that needs to be disclosed and then start healing from it. So the other really major tip that I have for you, if your partner has been keeping this secret and you still feel like there's more that you need to know, and maybe you're early in this process, is really think through what you need to know and why. So what do you need to know from this? And why? What is helpful for you to know? What do you have to know? What are the burning thoughts and and feelings that come up that you need answers to. And really be mindful that that's not gathering details that are going to cause you pain. Because so many people come to me and they're reliving the painful details that they asked for, maybe in anger, like, asking for the specific types of positions that they used, or what the woman looked like that they were cheating on them with, or that kind of stuff. Like, those are often details that will stick in our minds and we'll keep replaying, but they're not helpful and there's no reason for them, really. So really think through, this is what I need to know and why, because this gives me this. And there are going to be a lot of things that are going to be really hard to hear that you need to hear. But just make sure you think through why. So gather all of your questions, write them out, think through them, ask yourself, why do I need to know this? Why is this helpful? Why is this important? And write them out, and maybe prepare to go to a therapist with those questions and try to work through that process so you can get the answers that you need from them in a really healthy way that can be facilitated. So those are kind of my tips, and this is something that you're going to need to keep working on and keep talking through. And unfortunately, it's going to be a process, so it's going to be something that you're going to have to talk through multiple times. But get support for that and make sure you're getting the answers that you need, but make sure those are the right questions, right? And always, like I could say this in every video, and I do, take care of yourself, because this is an awful process and you are going to need support and help, and you're going to need love and patience. You're probably going to need a community around you and extra self-care. So make sure you do that for yourself and you give yourself some love and just start working through this process. Okay, please let me know if you have any questions. I've gotten some really great questions, and some of you reaching out with comments, and I really appreciate that. So please continue to do that. I'm here to support you and help you as much as I can. So good luck,